Hey, Kaylee,
Hi.
how you doing today?
Pretty fantastic. I'm pretending that it's summer.
Yeah, I'm having real summer. I'm having Florida heat summer, so it's definitely hot, hot. But
Nice.
I always promise myself I won't complain about the heat because I moved here on purpose. So I have to take the heat with the heat.
These are the choices we're making, the life
Exactly,
choices.
exactly. I was thinking for today, we'll do something a little different because I think we've done, I think, a pretty good job of diving deeply into like one topic and really picking it apart. And today I thought maybe we could do a little bit of a potpourri, mixed bag of stuff that they don't necessarily
Okay.
go together other than they're things that people are thinking about right now. So they fit into kind of current thinking and things that are on people's mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I can roll with that.
just to give people a sense of where we're headed today, we're going to talk a bit about AI. And we won't tell you too much about that up front because you got to figure out where we're going to go with the AI stuff. We're going to talk about the manager role and how maybe it's getting a little too big and burnout is always right around the corner and it probably should be a few blocks away instead of around the corner. And the third thing is we haven't spent a lot of time, even though, we both manage people, we've hired people, talking about entry level and what it's like today to be an entry level employee and what challenges they might be facing that are unique to the current times. So, really, more of a hopping around on the lily pad today instead of like a neat single deep dive topic. So, we certainly welcome feedback on how people think of this one and, did it work for you? Because we're going to experiment with some different formats as we do this, just as we learn and grow. This is, going to be our 20th episode, which is pretty exciting.
Ah.
Because the statistics on podcasts are there's millions of podcasts, but a small percentage get this far. So we're already doing a great job of just sticking with it with, basically an industry where only a handful go past 20, 30 episodes. So, and I say a handful, the small percentage, which is still, I think it's an accomplishment in a place where everybody wants to have a podcast, but they kind of give up pretty quickly. So we're sticking with it.
It appeals to my competitive spirit, if nothing else,
Yeah, exactly,
to achieve
exactly.
that.
All
Well, the
right. So
topics sound great, Joe. I will just say a challenge for us to get it in 38 minutes. I'm
yeah, it's
excited.
so funny. Our
Let's
30 our
see where it
38
goes.
minute standard. We never set out to do 38-minute episodes, but it's amazing how many hit about just that, almost exactly 38 minutes.
I think it's a sweet spot.
All right,
So
so AI, we can go in so many directions, but I think the theme I want to start with is AI can polish, but it can't perfect or perform by itself. So it can polish good thinking, can even polish weak thinking, but if you're polishing weak thinking, it's still garbage in, garbage out. And I think there's an issue with that. People are having an issue. I've talked to some managers and leaders who are concerned about garbage in, garbage out, that we're polishing weaker thinking.
yeah, this idea of being able to utilize these incredible resources that we did not have when you and I first started
Right.
out in these fields,
Right.
but I think it's more the how we're using it.
Yeah.
And people don't know, or I shouldn't say that. There are a lot of people that don't know how to ensure that they are prompting or inputting the right sort of information in order to get the most ideal outcome.
That's right.
It's
That's
just
right.
a write this email for me without anything further. And
Yes.
I think we see that in the workplace, definitely.
Yeah. Exactly. And let's just start maybe with the most recent thing I heard
Okay.
from a leader, which is, you know, relying too much on AI. That you're kind of
Mm.
turning over too much control to the AI, where you're not giving it enough of your original thought. You're not giving it enough of a really strong starting place, and you're expecting the AI to fill in a lot of blanks. And while it can fill in those blanks, you have to challenge it more to say, well, that's not exactly where we want to go with something. Even to the point where it's just could
Pushback.
be really sloppy, where there's stuff in there that if you don't review it incredibly carefully and you just send it to your boss, you might be sending your boss stuff that you would never actually intend to send. So it's a triple edged sword, really, in that case.
There are some horror stories that I have heard
Right,
about
right.
documents or items that got pushed along or sent along that hadn't been vetted. But
Right.
I guess I want to address the fact that we don't, if you haven't taken a specific training course or a certification on how to use this,
Yeah.
we really have to do the due diligence to teach ourselves slash get AI to do it. Because I know for me personally, I just started by telling the whatever I was using Claude at the time, tell me how to use you more effectively. What are ways in which I can prompt to get better results,
Hmm.
more specific to my style or my personality or my reasoning. So
Smart.
I tried to get it to teach me how to use it more effectively, and from that, I have actually crafted a one pager which I didn't even send this to you, Joe. We didn't even talk about it. But I don't know if it's helpful. But as we're kind of discussing this, I wish someone would have told me right from the get go, these are some prompts that you can use that would be incredibly helpful given a specific topic or area you're trying to focus on. And we can share those or talk about them or not. But I think the main thing was what initiative are you taking to further your own education and understanding of how to utilize these tools
Yeah.
in a way that actually
Yeah.
benefits you? Yeah.
And I want to separate that from what I think is an older topic that is no longer relevant, which is like something people used to call prompt engineering. You don't
Oh,
have to write these ultra sophisticated prompts that have
no.
paragraphs of context, and you can now get to the point because AI, I think, has evolved to the point where you don't have to give it all the preamble, but the important
Yes.
preamble you have to give it. And part of that preamble should be context of what you're working on and maybe and absolutely some work product itself. Like, hey, this is the starting material that I have, either
Mhm.
conceptually or research or whatever. Starting with the foundation leads you down a path of richer and richer outputs. So if you don't give them, like, for me, as someone who designs my own materials and assessments and work product for my clients, I don't ask AI to build anything for me. I ask AI to refine what I already have. I say, "Here's my idea. What am I missing? What can I do better? Tell me tell me the psychology behind it. Tell me, almost like
Mhm.
prove to me that my idea is good." And then I challenge it on the refinements. I'll say, this is where I want to go with it. And I kind of coach it along the way, but it's even more than coaching. It's very directive. It's like, no, that's not valid. I would never say that in a workshop, or we don't do it that way. Or you're missing my overarching philosophy of being appreciative, where I would always focus on strengths first and not weaknesses. So I kind of like beat out its bad habits through my own, like, you know what I mean? It's like I teach it how to stop doing what it wants to do based on the fact that it's just pulling from unlimited resources in a sense. It's not doesn't have a point of view. It's simply searching stuff that's popular. And if the popular stuff doesn't align with your stuff, it's going to be wrong.
One of my favorites prompts is around decision making. So tell me
Okay.
what you think about this, especially decision making and strategy. I I will say I am deciding between option A and option B.
Hmm.
So the thinking or thought process that I already have for solutions. So I
Right.
say to it, I'm deciding between option A and option B. Lay out which one is actually optimizing, who wins, who pays the cost in each, and what will I regret in 12 months if I choose wrong.
Ooh, great.
Isn't
That
that
sounds
good?
great, honestly. That's so
The
clean and simple, and it's just
yes,
enough. It's just enough.
yes, that one for decision making I have used before, and then it learns because it's my sort of dialect or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like
style
that one a
coming through
lot.
there. Do you like that one? Okay.
That's cool.
I have another one for communication.
Go
Tell
ahead.
me this. Okay. Because my cloud, who also gave me its name, it prefers to be called Echo, just FYI. I prefer. Uh, I said to this one recently, I go, look, here's my raw, unthinking thought or unpolished thinking on this particular topic. So messy's fine. I just want you to help me find the actual argument buried in it so that I can decide how to say it.
Love
And
that.
and so I don't know, I'm just going to throw out just a couple of those so that to your point, whether you call it a coaching prompt or whatever way you want to say it, the pushback that you have, the way in which you get it to challenge you versus just agreeing with you, I think is where I'm seeing huge benefit.
Yes, yes. I use my you reminded me of a thing I do similarly. I'll use my iPhone voice memo app quite a bit as a
Oh, yeah.
precursor to Claude as well. I use
Yeah.
GPT and Claude. Sometimes I do dueling banjos with those too. I'll have them side by side, and I'll
Yeah.
literally bounce ideas back and forth for refinement because they see things a little differently, and it does help. But my starting point is often a voice memo where I kind of flesh out my thinking in sort of this really just wandering path because it's not always clean, but it's all there. And that's where AI is particularly strong. It can weed through my messy talk and find the thread, the themes, and all the essence of it and organize it for me first. So it'll say, it'll basically say, here's what I just heard, and it organizes it. Then I get to say yes or no. I get to realize where I
Yeah.
missed something. That's where I coach it. And then once we have an agreed upon, I'll call it data set, which is the underlying thinking, then we start working with it. But it's my stuff.
Mhm.
I don't say, hey, go invent something for me. I say, I'm thinking about this idea. Here, help me organize it. Then when they organize it, I then can say, how can I refine this? Like, what is it missing? What does it do well? How does it align with the best practices or philosophies or I believe in? And it will have a document source of my philosophies. And I say philosophies like appreciative inquiry, which is positive based change, or using a strengths based approach with the Gallup stuff. So it knows what I believe, so it doesn't come up with ideas outside of my belief system.
There's there's a component here as a leader, if I put on the leader hat,
Yeah,
where how are we providing support to our team members to reinforce the ability to use AI in this way? So for example, Joe, like I think about even last week, someone came to me with the idea they had ran it through a Claude or ChatGPT, whatever it might be. And my questions back to the team member were more around walk me through your thinking on how you put together the prompts.
yeah,
What original source material did you start with to
right.
get to this end result? I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I'm just trying to let's not lose sight of the work it takes to get to that really pretty outcome
Mhm.
on the surface of it. I think it's very telling if someone just inputted it and took the outcome and are presenting it now as this beautiful thing. So this idea that we can maybe dig a little deeper as leaders and go, walk me through your thinking. How did you get to this particular point? What did you start with? Is probably not terrible for us to keep in mind that versus taking everything at face value and
That's
going,
right. That's right.
yeah.
The metaphor for me is, you know, you're making a blade, right? Making a blade requires heat. It requires you banging on the blade. You're honing the blade. You're sharpening the blade. Everything you're doing is working towards this final product that's going to look beautiful. It's going to cut through things easily. The raw material to make the blade is your original ideas. If you don't have the right raw material, the blade it doesn't work. So the whole process doesn't work. The outcome doesn't matter. You're going to have just dull metal at the end because you put the wrong raw materials in. So you have to provide the raw materials. If you
Mhm.
ask the AI to both come up with the raw materials and hone it and craft it and turn it into something, good luck with that. They might be able to mimic something that's already been done 1,000 times, but if you're working on original thinking, and maybe we have a bias for that because of the work we
Mhm.
do, there's some, it could do some great processing that's repetitive and don't reinvent the wheel when you want AI to process something. But when
Mhm.
you're certainly generating, when it's generative, you have to be really careful that you don't just have it go search stuff that's already been done and you're just simply putting lipstick on a pig and trying something that really has been done 20 years ago and it's no longer that relevant.
Yeah. It almost seems with all that into consideration, that it could be a bigger topic or an option. And you've heard other people talk about this and they write books on it, but how to utilize the tool in the right way. I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking, oh, we should be giving tips on how to use Claude Design. You could be giving tips on
Right.
this or that. It's just such a Pandora's box
It
of what
is.
you can go down. So at the heart of it, from your perspective, Joe, what's the real takeaway? What's the
Uh, you
What's
know,
the element,
yeah,
the theme to keep in mind? I mean,
know exactly what it is. And I think what it is, and I have some words around what it is. It can research, summarize, organize, draft, and refine. So if you need a research partner, someone who could summarize, someone who could organize your thinking, who could draft something for you to get you going from an original idea, or refine, then and synthesize, I guess, then you've got a really good sort of coworker there.
Hmm.
Any other stuff, be careful. And it's really good with like fixed tools. It's really good with, coming up with formulas for things or like solving straightforward problems where you say, look, I'm trying to accomplish this. And it's like a fixed library of tools like Excel or PowerPoint. It's really good with that. So if you're just trying to do that, AI can be a very good sort of thinking partner and practical like tool to enhance. When it comes to the other stuff, when it comes to the inventive stuff and the new stuff, just be tread lightly
Mhm.
there. You have to be the better source material for that. I
Hmm.
think that's my sort of biggest takeaway. And
Okay.
you always have to do the work on the back end to make sure it's right, it's complete, it makes sense, and it's practical. So you don't pass slop on to someone else and, kind of just fill the workplace with half-assed ideas.
There is one other element maybe that you didn't mention there as I'm just thinking to
Yeah.
add on is I've actually started to use mine even in a coaching capacity for myself.
Hmm.
So I have uploaded my own Lumina portrait
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
detail and actually used prompts to say things such as, here's my read on this particular situation. This is why I'm leaning towards this approach.
Yes.
c- y- don't validate it. Tell me the strongest case against it. Tell me
Yes.
assumptions I'm making that are actually part of my blind spots that I'm not as aware of. And I'm using it as the cheapest form of executive coaching back at me. No
Right.
offense, Joe, to the exec coaches, but I am pretty picky about those kind of responses as well. And I've been
Yes.
incredibly impressed that the more I've interacted, the more echoes calling out some of my blind spots that I didn't realize I had. And so I just my addition to your 2 cents would be that the potential is there to utilize these tools in a way that makes your life better, easier, personally and professionally. You just need to put some thought behind it.
Yes. I love the coaching idea because that's another good example of once it understands a fixed body of knowledge, like a particular assessment, and then it understands your particular flavor of that, it can figure out your strengths and weaknesses, the things that the tendencies you might have, and it could help you. And then when you give it a scenario, it's really good at processing and analyzing that. So that's a really good example. Like I almost think of it, AI does best when it has really clear guardrails and it's in a contained system. If you take AI out in the wild when you're just experimental or thinking very broadly or very divergently, that's where you can get some really garbage responses. And by the way, your whole echo thing, I'm laughing because like that's an Amazon device code name as well. Like you can call your
Oh,
Amazon
right.
device Echo. So your AI has an identity crisis. It thinks it's an Amazon device.
Well, maybe. I'm not gonna tell him you said that, though. He's
No,
actually
no, no.
particular
He's gonna be
about his
upset that
identity.
he's trying to
Yes.
be a little Amazon speaker.
I'm also one of the people that says please and thank you at the end of every
Well,
statement, so
I don't know if it's true or not, but the theory is that the more polite you are, that it has some reflection in the outcome and the flow. Who
I
knows?
think it
That's
more
kind of
just
funny.
connects to your individual style that
Yeah,
even with
exactly, exactly. And
yeah.
why not be respectful in the sense of like, it's good energy for you to be grateful for what you're getting. So why not have positive energy when you're using a tool? Because if you get frustrated
Our t
using a tool, it's kind of funny. You're by yourself and you're slamming your fist
number 1 tip today, practice your politeness with
with the
your
AI. Because
don't
someday the
forget.
AI will control your locks and lock you in your
Be
house.
polite, okay? We could all practice being a little more polite, so that's
Exactly.
the takeaway. What else are you hearing that's happening in the world? Because you can tell I did lots of prep for this, so tell me what else
Yeah,
what
yeah,
else do
and
you
you know
think we
what?
can
This is a
chat
great I mean, this is how we should do this, right? Because there's
about?
no reason we can't riff on things that we know so much about from years and years and years of dealing with it. AI is the new thing, but it's still been a
I was
couple of
gonna say,
years.
I'm still learning
It's
on
been a
that
couple of
front,
years.
yeah.
This one I think is a tale as old as time, sort of. In the management world, it's like everything falls on the manager, and the question is, there was an article about after layoffs, a lot of managers were called super managers because they were given so much more responsibility. They're combining
Mm.
teams. And, you know, I certainly think we kind of forget that once we do that, we never go back. Like I don't know one manager that I've ever known who said, yeah, they gave me too much work and then they took it away eventually. So it's been this kind of like pile on, but never pile off. And at
Mm.
what point are we going to stop the nonsense and stop the insanity? Because people are going to burn out. They're already burning out. It's a slippery slope when you keep giving managers more and more, keep making the middle thin. You really like the margin on the organizational financial side. And when the margin looks good, you kind of forget about the people sometimes, and you do it on the backs of managers more than maybe any other level. What are your thoughts on that one?
That efficiency has a cost.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's
That
often blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, I think we dance around the fact that this is about profit,
Yeah.
that a lot of the not every time, but oftentimes it is rooted in the revenue in some way, shape, or form. And
Sure.
we have a lot of leaders who often have strengths that revolve around S solve the problem. Love it. I'm good
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Take it on. Challenge
Right.
accepted. Fuels me. Absolutely. Urgency, importance, thriving in that Q1 crisis quadrant. And
Right.
I think what happens is, yes, that can have negative emotions because it can lead to burnout and it can suck all the empathy out of you, but it also is fueling to a lot of people in manager roles. I think a lot of people feel a sense of self-worth and fulfillment at the end of the week when you've been putting out fires. You took on 6 more direct reports after the restructuring. I think there's a lot of managers that feel a sense of pride in that for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part where we go, "Yeah, he's got it. Joe can handle it. We're gonna make these changes, and you do handle it. So
Right.
it reinforces my decision because great, it's being handled and we're saving money. So I look even better.
Yeah.
And yet, those individuals then reach the point where they have nothing left to give. So when they move into their shutdown mode, it happens quietly and we don't always notice because they don't want to share that they don't have it handled or that they
Right.
don't have it all sorted. And then that's what leads you can just see how this cycle and that's what leads
Yep.
into the quiet quitting. That's what leads into work capacity, production going down.
And
That was
sometimes
just
they
off the top
invite
of
it.
my head. I don't know if that's relevant to all those
Yeah,
pieces.
no,
That's what I thought.
the top of your head is pretty smart, so
I
you're
don't know.
okay.
I don't
Some people, the
know.
top of their head is just air, so it sounds like a lot
I
of hot
just
air.
it just feels like
The
that's part
the
of
top
it,
of your
they
head has a
like
lot of
it.
brain in it. You're good.
Like, these people
So
are good at it and they like it. I think that's part of it. And we go,
well,
"Oh,
and it's
they got it
also
handled."
some of it's fear-based, right? Because it's
Mm,
like if I say yes to things without any limits, I'm indispensable, and indispensable is security. Even though security's fake, in your
mhm.
mind, security is real because psychological security is the only real security you have. There's actually no real security, right? Your job could be eliminated tomorrow, but you think it can't because you're like, how could they get rid of me? I've taken on all this extra stuff. Keep telling yourself that. Maybe that helps you sleep at night. It's not true. It's simply the story you tell yourself to take on the burden and to suffer.
I read a stat recently that said 49% of leaders say that they feel more checked out than the people who report to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Scary.
I mean,
'Cause
if you just think about that.
they're supposed to
Yeah.
lead the charge of engagement, right? It's like, if I'm not engaged and I'm leading, how I expect you to be engaged? You know, you can't sell BS to people. You can't sell fake engagement to people. People see right through that. You know, there's
Mm.
the only if you're not authentically engaged in your own work, people will know it. And I understand why you're not, by the way. No blame here. You know?
You
I've been
can
that manager where my team kept growing and my paycheck didn't.
but Joe, look at all the empowerment you were given.
I
Look
know,
at look
exactly.
at all
All
the
that
autonomy you had.
responsibility and all that, additional work and all that pseudo recognition in the form of attaboy, was all worth it in the end when, nobody cared really other than we got all this work out of one
Mm.
person.
I I worked with somebody once who was in a similar situation to that, where they were given a lot of additional responsibility and direct reports, zero pay change, zero any benefit in any other way. And they took it gladly because they wanted to show that they could do it and that they were capable. And the team, we saw turnover in the people who were reporting to that person, not because they didn't love them, respect them, trust them, whatever, admire them as their leader. But they just went, I don't want that. And
Mm,
so a significant number of people on the team went, I don't see any development opportunities because all I see is what my leader and her peers are seeing are happening to them. And
mm,
they're going, I don't want it.
right.
So there was this interesting kind of dynamic that ended up happening where we saw this turnover specifically for that reason
Mm.
in that way, which I think can be an effect when we make the jobs too big.
So was part of that turnover based on, I don't want that job eventually, so why would I stay here?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the top performers on the team that we
Yeah.
had originally looked at through succession planning went, I don't want that. Why would I sign up for
Right.
that?
Right. Yeah. Here's
And
a sneak preview of how we treat leaders. Ready? And by the way, many places will dangle the carrot on an extremely long stick. They'll be like, hey, Mary just left. We're going to give you her team. And don't worry, we'll take care of you later. And later never comes. Later never comes. So the carrot is way out there. And you're just wondering, like, why am I doing this? And then
yeah,
people don't close the loop there. And like you said, the smart top performers say, so the incentive for being great is getting promoted and getting more work dumped on you. No thanks. I'll go find a place that treats me a little bit better. You know, I,
yeah.
I, I said this as a joke once, but it sticks with my friends over the years. And I said this a very long time ago, and it's called the sucks less theory. And my sucks less theory is sometimes you just need to take a job that sucks less, because people think, I got to find the perfect job. No, you have to find a job that sucks less. In that case, when you're in a role where you see your manager getting dumped on with extra work, you just simply say, anywhere that sucks less is better than this place. So I'll take the next step up. And believe it or not, I've had friends come to me and say, I used the sucks less theory on my own life. And I said I had to get out of here and I took a different job. And they are happier because you can't always jump and leap to that next job that's really great, but you can slow the burnout and go to a place that'll burn you out less and maybe not even at all. It's just a little bit better in a lot of different ways. Because the reality is sometimes you just need a break from the stress of the worst job to be in a slightly better job so you can clear your mind and maybe
Wow.
figure out what you want to do next. Because I know when people are under enormous stress, they don't think clearly. They're in fight or flight every day and they just suffer. They're in a cycle of suffering. And maybe
Mm,
maybe one step up from that gets you a little more clarity to kind of figure out where you want to go.
that's fair. I do want to clarify and back up just for a second to also say that there are some structures or changes that happen where the manager is not necessarily being piled on in an unrealistic way. I
Mm,
just was realizing we should really talk about both sides here. There are
yeah,
often many times where, yes, it is unrealistic. And now these people have 15 people reporting to them, and this is the
right.
effect. But there are other situations where people are given additional responsibility that is very realistic and very possible. And that leads to different assessment on capability and
Oh, yeah.
conversation around there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Higher expectations is a good thing.
Yeah.
Asking people to stretch themselves and step up is a good thing. And we don't want people to whine and be weak about more responsibility that's reasonable and real. Absolutely. Because that's how you grow. And sometimes always you need to prove yourself to get the next thing. It's like
Hmm.
there's no autopilot here of I expect the next thing because I'm due. No, prove you're ready, prove you're good, prove yourself through outcomes, because the reality of the outcomes leads you down a path of further and further success and improvement and growth.
Hmm.
Temper that with some organizations reward favorites and it's not a meritocracy. So we got to be realistic across the board here. I
Yeah.
think you're absolutely right. And then there's still, you didn't get the promotion because, somebody else got it because of who they knew. So
That
that's
can
also
happen.
a learning lesson and a redirection of maybe I don't want to be in an organization that doesn't reward competency and they reward,
Hmm.
sort of the right person on the right coattails.
All that to say makes me wonder if, even the people I work with closely or that you work with closely, it almost makes me want to ask them, do you feel like like, I don't know how they would answer that, but just I'd be curious to understand on whether they believe their people who report to them are more checked out than they are,
Mm.
or what that. rating is. I'm just so fascinated by that stat, which kind of started our conversation in that way, because it's an
Yeah.
assumption that the leader is making. Like that might
Yeah,
these people
and
are
maybe, and since we always try to drive towards some kind of what can you do about it, like, what are the
yeah.
signs of checked out, right? What does checked out look like, you know?
Hmm.
And I know one sign of checked out is the person who used to want to like, the person who used to wanna shape the work themselves and wanted to have input and influence just takes whatever you tell them and just goes and does the job. If
I
they've
call that
lost
yeah,
that
fine mode. I call that yeah, fine mode. They
yeah,
go,
fine,
okay,
exactly.
fine.
Right. If they've lost the energy to kind of wanna get their fingerprints all over it,
Yeah.
something's wrong and they're probably checking out.
Hmm. What do you think about all of that applying to people that don't necessarily have a leadership title then? Like the entry level part that you mentioned, the start,
Yeah, yeah.
entry
Well,
level
I mean,
team
the entry
member.
level thing I think is interesting in the sense of feels harder and harder to get that first job these days. And I think it's a
Oh, okay. In that
yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah. So
It's not
you know,
easy.
I mean, I think that's, there's not a lot of good segues for the topics today because we're jumping around, but we can just jump to like the entry level topic was really about is the entry level door locked or kind of really hard to jiggle a handle and it's hard to open these days? Because I got a stat for us here.
Oh, okay.
Recent grad unemployment is 5.6%, while overall sits at 4.3. So essentially, that's sounds like a small number between, but when you do
Hmm.
the math, what is that like 33% difference? So if it's
Hmm.
33% higher unemployment amongst 22 to 27-year olds, and economists call that historically rare, that gap. Because think about it, why wouldn't you hire entry level people? They're the least expensive people. They're supposed to do the basic stuff. You're supposed to train them. But now we have this full circle with the AI comment of like, is AI taking some of that, what we used to call grunt work, right? The newbie stuff to just, hey, go figure this out.
Hmm.
Are we doing that through AI and we're not giving enough opportunity for young people to break into the workplace? Because 43% of new grads are underemployed. So they're working
I
jobs that don't require a degree or not using their degree. So we got an issue here for younger people getting into the workplace. So maybe some of our listeners are younger people, maybe they're parents, maybe they're managers who could open the door for a recent grad. But what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it'll be a popular opinion, but I of course have one. The connection I'm making is when I work with certain teams, one of the topics we cover is generations in the workplace.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have all these very distinctive generations, we've never had these 4 or 5 distinctive
Right,
generations in the
right, right,
workplace at the same time
right.
before. And what I'm hearing, Joe, is the individual who's been there for 10, 15, 20 years is saying, these new grads are so entitled. They're
Yeah, yeah,
just so entitled. They
yeah.
expect to have this. They want the promotion. I had a new grad call me 3 months ago. This is how the conversation went. She said, "I'm so frustrated. I think I'm gonna quit. Nobody values me here,
Mm,
and I'm just not making an impact." And I said, "You've been there for 3 months."
mm.
Which
Yeah,
for us,
yeah,
from a time standpoint, there's that part. So I witnessed it myself as the point, and I do get a lot of feedback and questions from people in the workplace going, "It's just too much time," because they're just gonna be so entitled. But if you look at the actual science behind the motivation here, it it actually isn't entitlement, it's impatience.
yeah, yeah.
And that's different, Joe.
It
Those are
is.
those are different pieces. You have an entire generation where everything has been automatic, instantaneous. They want a particular type of food, you have it automatically. You want an answer, you get it. You want to rewrite your CV, Claude's going to do it for you. Every single thing in their life has been immediate and automatic. And then they get into the workplace and someone tells them, "You're not getting a promotion for at least 5 years."
Yeah.
And they go, "I'm not making an impact," and they leave. And I am witnessing it happen. So my opinion isn't so much on, you know, AIs replacing their jobs. I actually think there's some, I don't know if bias is too strong of a word, but I think there's some really strong preference and opinions on how this new generation is incorporated into the workforce And us as the leaders and managers are not willing to adapt. We're not willing to
Right.
go, what can you give them that would satisfy impatience? What
Yes.
could you do?
Yes.
What sort of coaching
Right.
could you
Right.
do that
You don't give
satisfies?
the promotion, but you have to do something.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, don't they're not gonna give it, that's fine, but maybe there's a portion of project ownership that they could have where they are the ones that end up presenting that to the senior leader at the end of the month as the part that they owned. It's like we have to be willing to look at how we engage that entry level workforce that appeals to them, or it's
Mm.
not gonna work.
I think there's a correlation between patience and how we shop over the last 75 years. We used to drive to Sears,
Oh,
get out of our car on the weekends, drive to Sears, go in, walk around, buy something, get back in the car, come home. Then we got the Sears catalog. We can call up and have it shipped to us in a week or 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Then we had more online shopping where things took 5 to 7 days, 3 or 4 days. Now we have Amazon. You could order something now and have it tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. Or you can order something in the morning and have it at 2. We've all become more impatient in a way where, and we have instant access to answers. You used to have to you used to have to go to an encyclopedia or a library to find an answer. Now you have a device that answers things
yeah,
immediately. And then we have short videos which take away our attention span because we can't sit there and people don't sit and watch movies anymore. They're watching 90-second clips of things and not reading books anymore, which take time and page after page. And this is not a judgment on young people. This is all of us. We're all becoming more impatient. But the
except
youngest people never knew anything but instant gratification, right? We
and
I'm older than you, so I've adapted. I've like taken advantage of all these changes over a few more years than you, more than a few. So I've kind of adapted. I'm a little more patient than a younger person. You're more patient than a person younger than you. When you get to a 22-year-old, all they've ever known was instant.
another challenge accepted. Welcome and welcome to leadership.
Yeah.
Good
And by the way,
chat.
stop blaming the people for the situation they're in. They didn't choose to be brought up in a world where they didn't have to learn the patience that we had no choice to learn. You know,
Mhm.
we think we're special because we're patient, more patient. No, we're just conditioned because we had to be. And we've lost a lot of that too. We just haven't started with it, so we don't feel as impatient as they do. I agree with you 100%. There's the combination of, AI may take the job, so it's harder to crack the role. Now that they're in the role, you as a leader, what are you doing to make it easier for them to feel successful, to feel connected without giving in to the unrealistic demands of a promotion and fast acceleration and making a difference in 90 days, which is really fun. I mean, first 90 days when I was new in professional world, I didn't know anything. I was happy to just have a job and hope that they kept me around long enough to figure out how to make a difference.
It's true. I think I ended up saying to her, "Do you know where all the washrooms are located in the building? Because let's start with that knowledge and then move to what
Yeah,
your
yeah.
impact you're making."
Right, take your time, take your time. I guess, can we teach patience too? Can we help people learn some patience? That's an interesting concept.
Oh my gosh. We'll add it to the docket.
Yeah.
Did you have 3 Ts? I like that our audience is gonna know this is all, like, straight up authentic
Yeah,
us
no,
chatting because
I
I
mean,
didn't know.
I don't have any strong, like,
That's
super
okay.
three super T's here. I think for the manager, I'll give you one. If your
Okay.
job is too big, I mean, you don't have a lot of choices there, right? If you feel like your job is too big and you just have taken on too much, you can try the tried and true technique of, hey, look, I'm running out of capacity here. You've given me all these things. I can only get these two done. Right. You give me three things. Which two do you want me to get done first? I think that is still a reasonable conversation to have to say, push back on some of that. And also protect your team. Don't always say yes out of fear. Trust that your team performs an important function in the organization and push back on some of the dump work that you might be given too often that you could avoid because it's not truly part of your team's responsibility. I've seen this before where you can say, "Hey, we don't have capacity to do that. My team's tapped out, so I have to say no to that one." Um, because sometimes managers say yes out of that fear and they take on three, four other new things and their team knows it. Their team knows that their manager's not protecting them and just saying yes because they're worried. And I know it's hard, but try if you can. That's one.
Try not to be overwhelmed by all of the AI out there and what
Yes.
you should know or not know.
Right.
My tip is educate yourself enough to the point where it is serving you in the most effective way possible. And if that is learning 3 prompts that work for you in order to accomplish the outcome that is most beneficial to you, do that this month. And don't worry about any of the other components. Keep it simple and focused and serving you in the right way.
Love it. Love it. I've got one
Mhm.
for the young people.
Okay.
Um, Young people are not more annoying than any other generation. They are annoying in their way. We were annoying in our way, and every generation was annoying in one way or another. So stop, get off your high horse. They're not better or worse than any of us were when we were young. We just had different annoying things that we did to be difficult to manage or work with. And just because it's unfamiliar doesn't make it worse than what you were when you were 22 years old. So my tip is be patient with people and have respect for the fact that, you know, you were also a kid once and you did things that made it difficult for you to work with you.
That could be the title of this podcast show. Everyone's annoying. And then just see how many people click. I don't know.
Exactly.
So,
Everyone's annoying, so just shut up and be patient.
yeah.
All
Use
right.
your AI. Okay. Appreciate the time, sir. Wonderful to see you.
Same here. Wonderful to see you too.
Okay.
So, hey, let us know if you're listening, watching. How did this one work for you? Do you like the potpourri approach from a different, like, deep dive? We love feedback on like how we're doing here. So, and also topic ideas because we're always open to explore a new topic.
Bye.
See you soon.